Hi, this is Tom Soane, and I want to share with you my story about how I first invested in property. The first house I ever bought, refurbished and sold. I want to show you how I raised enough money to be able to buy my first property. And it might surprise you because a lot of people think you need tons of money to start investing in property, but you don't. And I'm going to show you my story of how much money I started with, how I spent that money, how I raised that money, how I learned from the entire process from start to finish. Because I'll tell you what, if I could go back to that beginning point and give myself some advice, I would have told myself to do a few things a bit differently. So I want to share that with you because if you're thinking of starting out in property, or you're already invested in property and you want to grow your portfolio, you want to make a bit more money from your property, then you can learn from me, you can learn from my story, you can take some strategies and some tips, and it's all free. Look, you could go out right now and spend loads of money on property investment training courses, strategies, and you can learn from experts and gurus and advisors. That'll cost you a lot of money, and I'm not bad mouthing them. Some of these training courses are fantastic and you can learn a lot. But I always believe that if you're going to be successful, then you've got to see successful. And by that, I mean, if you're going to be successful in property investment, you have to learn from people that have done it and are doing it and have succeeded in it and are still succeeding in it. So that's why I want to share this story, because I'm relatively new to property investment myself. I've only been doing it for a couple of years, but I've learned from the best. I've already spent hours and hours and hours learning about property investment. I've invested loads of money in learning about property investment. I've been an estate agent for 20 years. I've owned my own estate agent for 8 years and letting agent for 8 years. And for the last few years, I've been helping property investors buy property investments too. So all of this knowledge is up here and now I'm actually doing it. But believe it or not, right at the beginning, when I first made that decision that I'm going to invest in property, I shit myself because all of a sudden I'm investing for myself. But all of a sudden I'm investing for myself now. And now that's different. When you're talking to other people about their money and you're giving advice on investing in property, that's easy because I know the business, I know the industry, and so do you. How many of you scroll through Rightmove and see a good little deal and you think, oh yeah, that's a good deal. If I had a load of money, I'd invest in that one. Well, I'm just trying to show you that actually you don't need a ton of money. Just do what I did. Simple as that. And that's why I want to tell you this story. Because right at the beginning of this, and I'll go back to the beginning when I first decided to invest in property. It all started because I'd gone and found a probate property which needed a complete refurb, top to bottom, back to front, left to right, needed the whole job done. And it was over in a little place called Fratton, which is in my home city of Portsmouth. And this was a 3-bed house, needed total gutting, as I've said. And this guy went in and brought it. I found the property for him. This guy went and brought it. And he turned it into a really nice 3-bed house and sold it for about 40 grand's worth of profit. He was over the moon, 40 grand in his bank. And I thought, I could have done that. Now, at that point, I think that was the pivotal point where I decided, next one, I'm going to do it. And then I started getting nervous. And then I started thinking, oh no, the next one I find is all going to go wrong. But, I was quite committed. I thought, yeah, I'm going to go and invest in property. Because again, back then, my dream was probably the same as yours. If you're thinking about getting into property and you want to get into property, or maybe you have got into property, our dream is that we're going to make loads of money. We're going to go and find this property. We're going to do it up. We're going to get in there with our families, our brothers, sisters, and our mates, and we're going to smash that wall out, and we're going to put this up, and we're going to paint that. It's all going to be a great laugh, and then we're going to make 100 grand profit from it. That's the dream. And I think everybody should have that. You should feel excited about the prospect of buying this great big building and then spending some time and effort and money doing it up into some beautiful property and then selling it for a profit. Because I think everyone secretly loves property, don't they? Everyone, you go to dinner around somebody's house, you always end up talking about property in some way, because I think everyone loves it. And so at that point, back then, a few years ago, I decided I'm doing it. I'm going to invest in property. Now, what was my situation back then? I mean, where was I? What was I doing? Look, I had a little estate agent. I had a little letting agent. And yeah, we were making a little bit of money, but nothing that I was going to start jumping up on top of the roofs and start shouting about how much money I'm making. I wasn't really making hardly anything. I was getting a bit of an income each month. It was paying my bills. I had a little bit left for treats and maybe the occasional holiday and that sort of stuff. We were doing all right. But I certainly didn't have any money to invest in property. But I certainly did have this dream, or maybe an illusion, that I was going to invest in property and have a big portfolio that was going to be worth millions, and I was going to bring in loads of money, you know. And I think everyone somewhere along the way would love to have that portfolio, just bringing loads of cash in. But look, I didn't have any money. So there's the first problem. I want to buy a property, but I haven't got any money. Now, luckily, I've learned from a lot of people on how you can raise money for property. But I still had this barrier. So I had to go and find money to invest in property. So I start saving. I start doing what everybody else does. I start saving and saving and saving. And for months I was trying to save. But then what would happen is I'd save up a couple of grand, and then I saw a golf bag that I really wanted. So I went and bought the golf bag. And then that little bit of money drops down a bit. And then my wife says, oh, should we go and have a holiday? So we go and have a holiday. We went to Turkey. And we had a brilliant holiday, which gave me memories and pictures that I'll never forget. But then the savings dropped down a bit more. And so I never really got to that point before I actually invested where I had enough money to invest in property. You know, my family aren't from money. I've always had to earn my own pound. Every tiny little bit of money that I've ever made in my entire life, I've had to go and earn it. I've never been given any money. I've never inherited anything. I've never won anything of any significance. So I bet I'm talking to you and you're saying the same. A lot of people out there have got that same situation where all the money that they've got for themselves is self-earned. Now, if you've inherited some money, then you are in a much better position and you should be looking at property now. But I wasn't in that position. So I was trying to save, not very good at saving, so that failed. But I had this drive. I really, really, really wanted to invest in property because I knew I could find good properties. I knew I could make money from property. But I had no money. But I wanted to do something for my kids. So I'm a relatively new father. I've got a 4-year-old. At the time of recording this, I've got a 4-year-old and I've got a 1-year-old. And when this drive for property investment first started, it was about a year into just having my first child. So all of a sudden your brain switches as a dad, and dads, you'll go with me on this. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. All of a sudden you think, shit, I've got to now provide for my family. It's not just me and my wife anymore. I've now got this little person that I have to supply a life for. So now the urge is even stronger. I wanted to provide my family with that security, that financial security, financial freedom. And I wanted them to be comfortable and happy. I never wanted them to have to worry about money or holidays or food or all that sort of stuff, which when I was a kid, me and my family was full of love and full of happiness and full of support and motivation. And I could not have changed my family for the world, but we didn't have a lot of money. Our holidays were on campsites. And again, I wouldn't change that for the world, but they were hard workers and real grinders and grafters. So I had this drive to provide for my family and make money for them. And I thought in my head, I'm going to do two things. Number one, I'm going to grow my property business. Now, if you live in my area, anywhere near my area, and you haven't seen this around, then you're hiding under a rock. But also I wanted to grow the property portfolio. I wanted to grow my property investments. I wanted to invest in flips where I could buy, do up and sell. I wanted to invest in buy-to-lets where I could buy them, refurbish them, let them out, or just straight out buy-to-lets. And then along the way, I started learning some other strategies too, which I will share with you. So that's it. I went for it. I started off that I want to start going out looking at properties. And I've always loved property. I've always loved business. Those are my two main areas of interest. I love a bit of golf as well, but I've always loved property. I've always loved business. There's something about property for me. It's the asset, isn't it? It's just this huge building that you own. There's something in the status of that. I'm very proud to be in property, and when people ask me what I do, I say that I'm in property. I love that. It gives you a bit of a buzz, and it gives you a bit of a self-worth. And I'd love to know what you think. What's your buzz or your desire about property and investing in property? I'd really like to know. Anyway, I think there's something about the size of the property for me, but then also then the investment side is the creative element, where you can go and see a property and your imagination starts going about how you can turn that into profit, what you can add to the property, how you can improve the property, what you're going to do at the end of the job with this property. I love that creative element of it. But then I also love the mathematics element of it. And I always say it's numbers first and human later. And by that, I mean you've got to calculate first. If it doesn't stack up on a calculator, don't even go and see it. Don't even go anywhere near it. Then it's the human element second. But anyway, so I got all of that, and I'm really buzzing about property, and I love property, and I love looking. As I'm driving down a street, I'm always looking at the houses to see what types of houses there are. I'm always looking at Rightmove to see what properties on the market. And I bet you're the same. If you've got any interest in property, you're always looking at houses, especially if you drive out into the country and you see like a real lovely mansion with a big driveway and it's beautiful, and you look at it and you just imagine, oh, that's nice. Or you see a plot of land in amongst some houses and you think, oh, you know what, you could build some houses on that. But everyone's the same. Anyway, I'm no different. That's my buzz, property and business. So I started searching for property. Now, I want you to remember, by the way, yes, I've got an estate agent. Yes, I've got a letting agent. Yes, I have been helping property investors find awesome property deals for years. I've been doing it in my sleep. It's just something that comes natural. But now I'm doing it for myself. So the whole world changed. Obviously, the first property that I find is going to be the one property out of the hundreds that I've found for property investors. This is going to be the one that falls down. This is going to be the one that gets the worst tenant on the planet. This is going to be the one where the roof caves in, or all hell breaks loose and it catches fire and burns down, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare. This is going to be that one property in the history of the world, and it's going to happen to me. Because now I'm investing. I'm not investing for you, I'm investing. So I go out looking for properties. Now bear in mind, I've still got no money. I just want to add that in. I've got no money. Well, do you know what? I've probably got about $3,000, something like that. Not even that. It was probably about $2,000 actually. So I'm looking for properties and I'm finding deals, and I go and view this property and I'm going, yeah, this is a great deal. This is a great deal. I can do something with this. I leave that property and I say, I think I can do better. And that was a mistake, because I'll give you a prime example. I had this, I went out to view this property, Lyndhurst Road, and it was about, I probably could have picked it up for about 150 grand. Only needed about 10 grand spent on it, and it would have been worth about 205, that sort of area after. Tasty little profit. But I thought, oh, I think I could do better. So I didn't buy it, and it just sold to the next person that was straight after me. And then I went, I should have got that one. That would have been a nice, tidy little profit. But at that point, I'm quite scared. I'm really scared of buying the wrong property. And all right, I joke about the worst property in the world and all that, but the fear is real. And I bet you're the same. If you've got some money, if you've got your own money and you're about to invest in property, I bet you have this little bit of fear that's just niggling away in your ear saying this could go wrong. And I bet that's the same in any investment. I bet even the most seasoned investors still look at a deal and go and have that little bit of fear. You've got to keep that, but listen to it. That's the key. That's the point I'm trying to make here. And I learned that now, and I wish I'd have known that then. So I always felt like every single property I was buying, every single property I was viewing, I always felt like I could do better. That this one, I'm not going to buy this one, I can get an extra 5 grand, or I'm not going to buy this one because I can get an extra £100 in rent, or whatever it may be. Even though I'd probably say I've sourced about 500 properties for property investors, and I've never had one go wrong. How amazing is that? I'm going to give myself a round of applause. But when it comes to doing it for myself, I was absolutely terrified. So I missed a lot of deals. I went around viewing loads of properties. I was going out and seeing 5, 6, 7 a week. But I wasn't making any offers. And this is mistake number one. If you don't make it, this is going to sound really obvious, and I don't mean to sound like a dick, but if you don't make any offers, you can't buy any properties, right? And it goes a bit deeper than that. Not only was I going out and viewing these properties, but I wasn't making any offers. So even that Lyndhurst Road property that I was just telling you about, the one that it was going to go for 150 and it was going to be worth about 205, maybe 210. Let's say 210, it sounds sexier. I was going to make a healthy profit on that. If I'd have just made that offer of 150, I'd have got that property. I probably would have got it if I'd have just made an offer at 145. But the point is that I went in emotionally. The fear took over. I'd gone into this property and I started thinking, oh, this is going to go wrong. That wall's going to fall down. Oh, that roof, oh, that's coming down. Definitely. Do you know what? This is in the worst area in Portsmouth. It wasn't. But this is the worst area in Portsmouth. I'm going to get the worst tenants. They're just going to not pay rent for 5 years and I'm going to lose everything. Wife's going to dump me. Kids are going to hate me. That's what was going through my head. It was crazy. So anyway, I'd missed that property and I went on to the next. I was really gutted about that because, you know, it's right near to where I grew up as well. So it would have been a nice one to have a board up there, which was my own property investment. But I missed that property. I missed quite a few deals actually. Another one that stands out actually is a place called Byerley Road, which is in a little area called Fratton, and which is near to me. So that was another property. I think I could have got that for 140, and job done. It would have been worth 190. It would have been a nice little profit in there. And again, I missed it because I went round and saw it. I probably could have got that one for less actually. In fact, oh my God, I just realised that one went for 127 in the end. And I know that because we resold it for the guy. Oh, I just realised that. Oh, that's just torn me to shreds even more. But anyway, so I missed that deal and I missed it because of my fear. Now, bearing in mind, I want you to keep remembering that I've still got no money, right? So I'm going to get to that bit. So I went round, I was viewing loads of properties, missing loads of deals, right? What I guess I was trying to do at that point was find deals and then worry about the money bit later. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, I just felt like I could raise the funds somehow. So after missing a load of deals, I promise you, I'm talking about 20 places here that I could have bought and invested in and had a good bit of profit from. I decided enough's enough. I realised about my fear. And it was when I got a piece of advice where I was really desperately trying to buy a place and I was going mad about it. And I got this piece of advice. And the advice was, it's just a pile of bricks. There's another pile of bricks down the road. And you've heard me say that a few times. I've been given that advice a few times now. And when I first heard it, blew my mind because what I was doing was letting the fear take over. So at that point, that was again another pivot point that I decided, okay, the next place that I go and see if it ticks my boxes and it calculates right. Bear in mind, calculate first, maths first, numbers first, human later. If it ticks my boxes, I'm buying it. That's it. So now I've made that decision. And I'm one of those types of people that if I decide this is what I'm doing, that's it, that's what I'm doing. Don't get in my way because this is what I'm doing. But I've got no money. So this is the next part. What did I do to get money? And this is the bit that you all want to know, I have no doubt. Bearing in mind I had about 2.5 grand or something like that. Not a lot, as in spare money that I was able to use to invest, so to speak. Now, I would argue that any one of you watching this video right now could take out a pen and paper and write down the name of someone that either has a bit of money that they would like to invest, or is a relatively wealthy person, or is a property investor or a property developer themselves. I bet everybody knows another property developer. Now, what I did was went to all those people and I offered them a deal. I said, look, I need this amount of money to buy this property. If you lend that money to me, then I will give you back this amount of money. So, and I'll give you the perfect example. I was offering 12% on that person's money. Now that's a good return. So I wanted someone to lend me I think it worked out to be about 60,000 quid, if I remember right. I can't remember. I'll come back to the figures. I wanted someone to lend me an amount of money, and then when the job's done, I was going to give them back 12% per year. So if it went longer, they would get more. So I went round to, I must have asked about 10 people if they could lend me some money to invest in my first property, because I knew that I could find a property where that 12% was fine to pay someone out. And this story gets better, because after asking all these people, I then met someone else who said, oh, you want to speak to this guy? I haven't got any money, but speak to this guy. He often does joint ventures or lends out money for this, lends out money for that. And just because I was talking to people, now bear in mind, I've always spoken to property investors, but I've only ever spoken to them from a property investment perspective, meaning finding them a property and letting them invest in it. I've never got or dived into where they're getting the money from, the cash for the deposit or cash for the refurb. I've never dived into that. So now I start talking to people that are lending money and that are joint venturing. And that's when the doors opened. I spoke to a guy, I'm not going to give the names, but I spoke to a guy, I said, yeah, I'll do a joint venture with you. I'll put the money in, you give me this much money back, you manage the project, you sort out the refurb, you sort out the purchase, you do all of that. I'll fund it. Brilliant. Wow, door opened again, right? And I was absolutely over the moon because I didn't tell him that I was going to pay 12%, but he said, I want 10%. So I got away with a free little 2% there. So how does that all calculate in? So I'm just going to give you the rough figures here because I haven't written them all down, but the first property deal that I ever did was is in Southsea. It's a 3-bedroom house, and I bought it for £221,000. And I needed about 40 grand or 45 grand to refurbish it. And I'll come back to the refurbishment because I learned some serious lessons about refurbishing a property. So I needed to spend 45 grand on that property. So that takes the total part there for 221 there. I think it was about 7 or 8 grand's worth of stamp duty. It's about 2 or 3 grand's worth of fees for legals and blah, 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 blah. So I'm probably into this property for what? 270,000, something like that, all in, everything in. Once we've taken into account tax and legals and everything like that, about 270 grand all in. So as it happens, this guy who was going to lend me this money said that he wanted to lend the whole amount. Now this guy's really rich, but there were other people that were willing to lend me the amount that I needed for the deposit. So I could have gone that route, but this guy lent me the whole amount. But he did it like a mortgage. We had a mortgage lender contract. Everything was above board and legit. And he took a charge on that property for the whole amount. So he's lent me that money. And I'd built in that I'm borrowing £270,000 from him. And I'm going to pay him back 27 grand if it takes a year. But I guaranteed that I would give him at least 6 months worth of interest. So if I'm going to pay him 10% per year, but it only takes 6 months to do the job, completion to completion, I would pay him back 5%. And that was my target. So, and that's what ended up happening actually. We did the job and it took about 7 months from completing the purchase, doing the refurb, and then recompleting the next sale. It took about 7 months. So I actually only ended up paying him back about 14 or 15 grand, something like that. So what's my cost now? I've borrowed £270,000 to get the full job done, top to bottom, back to front, left to right, start to finish. And I've had to pay him back in total £285,000. Now, do excuse the figures. They're there or thereabouts. There's probably a few quid here or there, but it's 285 grand. I sold that property for £310,000. Actually was going to be £312,000, but there were a few little bits that came up on the survey that I dropped the price to accommodate and so on. But anyway, £310,000. So I only had to pay back £285,000, but I'd sold it for £310,000. And once I take all my fees out of that, I had to pay to sell it. Even though it's my own company, I still had to pay my own company to sell it. I had legal fees and all this sort of stuff. And then you take your tax, bear in mind your tax, you're going to pay 20% on that. So all in all, I made a gross profit of about £22,000, £21,000 there or thereabouts. Take away some tax, and I ended up with about 16 grand. 16 grand. But the best part is, if you were following all of that, how much money did I put in of my own money? Nada, nothing, not a bean, not even a penny. And I was over the moon. Now, yeah, I could have made more profit. Yes, I could have done differently with the refurb, which I will come back to. But I just made 16 grand of pure profit without spending a penny. Now, please tell me in the comments below, or message me, or inbox me, or email me if you think that's a good deal or you think that's not a good deal. I think that's a good deal for my first one, and I'm really pleased with it. I'm going to give myself a round of applause. Yes. Anyway, so that was it now. Now the fear was gone. The numbers came into play, and it was all about the numbers, and then the human element comes later. So that money went straight in the bank, and really pleased with that. I reinvested it, and then I went on to the next property. So I moved on to my second house. And this one was a bit different because it was a smaller house, needed less work, but still quite a lot of work. I spent 25 grand on the refurb of the next house. And this was in a little, a different area of Southsea. It wasn't quite as premium. But I bought this house, 2-bedroom house, and I bought this house for £150,000. And again, this was a probate property, but it was just came to the open market. So 150 grand, I bought that place. And I went back with the same guy, because that guy who's lent me the money for the first property has just made 14 grand without doing anything. I've just made him an anonymous investor. That's my whole thing. An anonymous investor, make money without doing anything. Loved it. So he was happy. So when I went to him for the second property, he was like, yeah, hell yeah, done the transfer, happy days. Now, in that meantime, I got a bit smarter and I really started saving a bit of money up myself. Plus I had a couple of grand anyway, and I'd made 18 grand from the first place. It was just over 18 grand, it doesn't matter. So I had about just over 20 grand, 22 grand I think it was, that I was going to put into the second property. My investor friend now, he's loving life. He gave me the rest. And then once that job was done, I think we were all in for about 180, something like that. And then the end value of the property was about 225, I think it was. And so I finished that job off, but I wanted to keep this one. I wanted to rent this one out. So actually I mortgaged the money straight out, paid the investor straight back really quickly. So he was happy again. He's just made a quick bit of money without having to do anything. And now he's got his money. I've got my property. All right, I've left some equity in there, but I'm getting £900 a month. My mortgage payments are about £400 a month. So I'm getting 500 quid a month profit. And all I'm leaving in that place is it worked out to be about 45 grand, something like that. So I'm getting £500 a month on 45 grand equity. Now you might wonder how the hell I'm working that out, but let me tell you about true yield in another video, because it's the biggest mistake I see property investors make, is making the wrong calculation on their true yield. If you just search Tom Soane true yield, then you'll see what I'm telling you about. But that's the way to calculate your yield. Don't calculate the weird way, which is how much did I spend? Because that's not your investment. Your investment is how much you leave in there. Anyway, I could go on for hours. I probably will. But anyway, so I've done this Westfield Road property, and now I've got a rental property, and I've done a flip. Now I'm brimming with confidence, and I've got this guy. I keep making him money. So I wanted to open my options a bit, because I didn't want to only have one guy that could lend me money. And just in the whole exercise, I'm getting to talk to other investors and developers. I'm asking advice. What would you do in this situation? What would you do in that? And with my second property, what did I learn from that? Now I've got one property that I've rented out, so that's in my portfolio. That has started me off. So I started learning about how mortgage lenders are working from an investor's side, and it was really helpful. But I also started learning that my tenants in there are really happy, because remember, I am the anonymous landlord. I have nothing, I don't know anything to do with my properties other than seeing my money come in every month, because the letting agent knows what they can and can't do, and they know what their boundaries are. All right, it's my letting agent, but I don't work in it. The guys know what they're supposed to be doing on a daily basis with my property. They know what my boundaries are. They don't come to me with things that I've told them that don't come to me with those things. Just get things fixed. So I don't have anything to do with it. My builder just went in. He'd already known what the job was from the previous place. So I just said, go and do that same job, but I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't need this. Off you go. He just told me when it was done. It was just brilliant. It was so easy. And in the end, I finished up with a really good rental property. I rented it out to really safe, reliable tenants that sailed through the referencing, sailed through the credit checking. They're really good tenants. They pay month in, month out without fail. They're fantastic. So then I moved on to my third property. Right, my second in my portfolio, but my third property. And this is in a little place called Stampshaw. And again, it was this one was an auction property. So I just found this place. Actually, here's a cool one. So I was in this whole exercise, I'm talking to other investors and other developers, just asking advice and say, what would you do in this situation and that? And I mentioned to one of those investors, look, if you ever go and see a property and it doesn't stack up for you, let me know because it might work for me. I might make a different calculation. Or if you go and see a property that you don't want to buy or you're not buying at that time, then I'll pay you. I'll pay you a percentage as a sourcing fee, as an introduction fee or a referral, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, I get a phone call. And one of these developers said, look, I've just been to see this place and I'm not buying at the moment because I'm buying another place, but this one might be for you. If you want it, then I'll introduce you and you can do it. Now, this was an auction place, but a price had been pre-agreed, and I wouldn't have found out about that price or that auction really unless this guy had called me. So I happily accepted his little sourcing fee. So I went and saw this place and really found out that it was a little gold mine. I think, well, I say gold mine. Look, you're not going to make millions from one property. You make lots of little bits from lots of properties. That's the key to property investment. Anyway, so I went around and had a look at this place. Probably at that time, I thought, oh, I need to spend about 7-8 grand on this place. But I did a bit more than that because I saw that I could expand the bathroom, which was actually just a tiny little shower room downstairs. Just move that out so I can get a bath in there. That would increase the rent, and I could open up the kitchen and the dining room into one open plan kitchen diner. So it really worked. I was really happy with it. Anyway, so I bought that place for 100. And so bear in mind, by the way, I've now got a bit of equity in Westfield Road in the Southsea place, the 2-bed house. I've got a bit of cash in the bank because I've been saving and saving and saving. I've been getting rent coming in and all of this sort of stuff. And now I've got this new place, and I went back to my initial investor and I said, right, got another one, here we go. He was happy, he was straight in. Look, I won't bore you with all the numbers, but what I'm trying to say to you is that I bought this property at a fair price, considering that it needed, at that time, I'd probably said if I'd have seen that one first, I would have spent about 30 grand on it. But I ended up spending about 12 grand on it because I was renting this out and I got it up to a good standard, ready to rent, and saved myself a fortune. So that's why I bought it at such a low price, because it was kind of calculated into that price that it was going to cost a lot more to refurb. But it's not what you know, it's who you know. So I spoke to a few of my contractors, a few of the builders, a few of these people, and said, look, how can I save some money here? How can I improve that there? And so on. Some people were saying, well, you don't need to spend a load of money on that. You don't need to spend a load of money on this. We'll just do that. And we'll just do this. Some ideas came out, and I ended up saving a lot of money on the refurb and making that a real bargain. So that one's rented out. That's going to be, that one is £900 a month as well. And I will have invested a total of about 170,000 to purchase it. And it's probably worth about 200, 205, 210 maybe. I got it through at 205 for a mortgage valuation. We'll talk about that another time. Then I moved on to a flat. I mentioned that I've just bought a flat. That one is going through right now. I should be about 3 or 4 days away from completion. I'm really happy about that. It's over in Gosport, which is just slightly out of my normal area, but I know it. It's a decent area, and it's a 2-bed flat with a garage. I'm really happy about it because I got a little nice surprise on that one. And I bought it for 122. And it's going to be worth, after I spend about 5 grand on it, no more than that, 5 grand, honestly, I promise you this is no lie. 122 purchase, spend about 5 grand on it, it's going to be worth about 160. And it's quick and easy. So I'm going to sell that one. And then I've got 2 other ones that are going through right now, both up in Newcastle. Now, I want you to keep an eye out for this because I'm going to introduce you to one of the #1 property sources, letting agents, property guys. He's a surveyor, he's a letting agent, he's a sourcer, he's an estate agent. He knows the whole Newcastle area. And he's connected me up with some awesome properties that I'm buying too. And both of them are going to have about, between them, about 60 grand in profit. But they're going to be nice and quick, and we're going to not try and go for the highest price possible. We're going to sell them at the right price, and we're going to sell them quick. But I'm going to interview him because I'd like people who live down the south, which is where I am. I'm in Portsmouth. But generally the people around the south, they don't look in the areas up north. They feel like they're scared. And I was too. I was very scared. Luckily, I know this guy, Tony, his name is. Right, Tony, if you're listening. But he is an absolutely loveliest guy on the planet as well. Explains things so clearly. Doesn't waffle on for 2 hours like me. Actually, what he does is gives information straight and to the point. And he's the loveliest bloke. I really like him. A lot of respect for him. But anyway, so I want to interview him. And I want to introduce investing in areas that you might not know. And you might think, oh yeah, but I'd have to go up there. Okay, go up there. But I tell you what, do a couple of deals when you've gone up there and then come back and realise I didn't need to go up there. You can get photos, videos, FaceTimes, Zooms, lives, all of those things to see this property. But also you can word things and you can get things in writing that protect you. If you do a deal in an out of area property or for an out of area property, then get it all in writing, what the plan is, get the strategy down in writing, and then you've got that plan. So I'm going to interview Tony so that he can introduce you to investments up north. So that's what I've got. I've done the flip, which was the first place I ever did. Happy days. I've now got 2 properties that are currently rented out, one that's just about to be rented out. I've got 2 properties up in Newcastle that are going through as we speak. I've just been offered today another property that I'm definitely going to go for. I'll give you details of that when I get it. Now, the next thing I'm going for, and I'll be quick about this because this is going to be the start of a little series. So if you're still with me, I've been talking for what? 2.5 years. So I'm going to tell you about a property that I've just found. It's a flat. I'm not going to give you too much info, but I want you to join me on the journey of investing in a way that I've never invested in my entire life. But I know that it's a good, profitable way to invest, and you don't need any money. You don't even need to borrow any money. So this is the key. You can get this property the same way, not this one, because I'm having this one, but you can get a property in the same way if you just do this right with no money. So this is a flat. It's in my local area. And the owner, the property is worth the exact amount that the mortgage is owed. It's 102 grand. Now, that means that the owner, if he sells it, then he's not going to make any money. And he needs to sell it. He needs to get out. Now, I don't know any more than that. He might be in mortgage arrears. He might have other problems. He needs to just get out of that property. I don't know what that story is. But he is keen to just walk away from the property and sell it. And all right, he knows he's not going to make any money. So I'm arranging a meeting with him. I've not even seen the place yet. So I'm going to go and view the property. I'm going to meet with the guy. And my offer to him is going to be a lease option. You might have heard of lease options. Well, what it basically means is that in this scenario is that I will go to him and I'll say, look, I'll pay your legal fees. I'll take the property off your hands and I'll pay your mortgage and I'll guarantee the rent. So if his mortgage payments are say 300, 350 a month, I'll guarantee that they will be covered. And I'm going to go and rent that out for 650 a month, right? So he then gets that property paid for. I'll take over the mortgage. I'll do all of that. No problems. And I will then agree a price. And this is why it's called a lease option. I will lease it from him. So I will lease that property from him for a minimum period of 5 years. And during that 5 years, I will have the option to buy that property at the price we agree at the beginning. So I'm going to offer him 105 grand. And look, in theory, I'm going to go and see it first, but I'm going to offer him 105 grand as a 5-year option to buy. And then in that 5 years, I guarantee his rent, I guarantee his mortgage will be paid. He doesn't have to worry. He can just stay out. I'll take care of all the maintenance. I'll take care of all the everything. Management, blah, 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 tenants, whatever. And then let's just say, for example, in 4 years' time, I think, right, I want to buy this now. Property values have gone up enough. I've made a bit of money on the rent. Happy days. I'll give him his 105 grand. So he then walks away from the property again because he doesn't have to have anything to do with it. And I have made whatever appreciation there has been in 4 years. Now, if I calculate that we're going to increase the value of that property by 4% a year or even 5%, that'd be brilliant. Then that will be in 4 years' time, the property value will increase by 20%. 20% of 100 odd grand is about 20 grand. So there's my profit. I've made profit for that 4 years in rent, and then I'm going to make another profit in that appreciation that I earn. So I'm going to go and see this property. I'm going to go and make that offer to the guy. And then I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to tell you if he accepted it or not. If he accepts it, I hope he does, because that's a really good way to make money. And I'm not stitching anyone up. He wants to walk away from the property. I want to invest in property. I will have to take care of the maintenance, the repairs, the tenants, everything. I will have to make sure that he's guaranteed to get his mortgage payment paid every single month. If the tenant doesn't pay me, I've still got to pay the owner. So there's my risk. So hopefully he accepts it. If he rejects it, I'm going to let you know why. If he accepts it, I'm going to let you know why. And I'm going to take you on the journey of making a lease option offer and then completing that lease option purchase. So what do I think now? I'm still going, by the way. I've got the trust of a guy that will invest in properties with me. I've got access to more funds because he knows he can make money out of it. I've now got access to more properties because I've been doing some work and speaking to all these different places that I can find properties. I have a lot of properties coming to me now, investment properties. So there's loads that I can do. And I'm now building more and more investors, people that want to just sit back, give 100 grand here, give 50 grand there, and then get money back for nothing without doing anything. I've got loads of those anonymous investors. And do you know what I've learned? I wish I could go back and tell myself at the beginning of all this, the advice that I got along the way. It's just a pile of bricks. There's another pile of bricks down the road. And also, numbers first, human later. That's a big one. And it's the same with that Chetwood. I had this emotional attachment. I wanted to spend a lot of money on the refurbs. I wanted it to be lovely. I wanted to walk in there and be proud of it. Oh my God, this house is so beautiful. But that costs money. So that's what I would do. I love being an anonymous landlord because I don't have anything to do with the property. I just watch the money coming in. That's it. In fact, the only effort I have to put into my property is picking up my phone, opening my online banking and going, that's all I have to do. I don't do anything. My profits grow. My value grows because there are people that are experts at doing those things, doing them for me. Rather than me doing it, no point, let them do it. And then my quality of life grows. Because profit isn't just about money. Profit is what's the point in making loads of money if you haven't got a life to enjoy it with? What's the point in making loads of money if you've got no time to enjoy it? What's the point in making loads of money if you've got no friends because you're a dick? What's the point in making loads of money if your wife's left you and your kids don't want to know you? What I'm trying to say is profit. I'm probably explaining that terribly. But profit is not just about money. You could make loads of profit in money and you can make loads of profit in life. Now tell me this, and please tell me this. What is happiness to you? What is quality of life to you? What's the first thing that comes into your mind when I say to you, what is a quality life to you? Is it friends and family? Enjoying life, contentment, fulfillment, holidays, all of those things? Or is it money? Or is it both? Well, I promise you, if you want to have both, then be an anonymous landlord because it's awesome. Anyway, I have waffled on for too long, but I hope you're still with me and I hope you enjoyed that story. I really wanted to tell you it because I just want to show you all that you can invest in property without any money. You just have to be creative. You just have to go and talk to people. And that's the key. You go and talk to someone, they'll tell you about this person, they'll tell you about this person, you'll meet this person. And as long as you're a good enough person, as long as you're all right to talk to, and you're not a liar, and you're not a cheat, and you're not a thief or anything like that, then people will invest in you. Because if they can make money out of you, they will keep investing in you. I promise. So I hope that helps. And anyway, just remember, there's no point in making loads of money if you can't enjoy it. I will speak to you all later. My name's Tom Soane, and this is the Anonymous Landlord.